Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live.
Great. Well, based on the discussion from the last meeting, if anyone would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, you may do so now.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Silverton. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees. It is 7:03 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella.
Here.
Trustee Harper.
Here.
Trustee Weggert.
Here.
Trustee Bierma.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Here.
Mayor Furman.
Here. Do we have any staff or board revisions to this evening's agenda?
I do. I have a couple revisions to this evening's agenda. I would like to take the billboard memo off the table again this time. I feel like I was rushed and I need a little bit more context and history before I present this again. I just want it to be a solid product for you all. And over the weekend, I found out new information or history basically, and would like to take that off. Okay. I would also like to include the Kendall Mountain Community Center patio reconstruction proposal for your consideration. Those are my changes.
Is everyone okay just swapping out the deleted item with the new item? Yeah, cool.
Sounds good.
We're going to make the newest item visible on the website. So we didn't get it, obviously, because it didn't come in the packet. All right.
Any other revisions? Great. So now we'll move to public comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. We'll begin with in-person public comment, then move to Zoom public comment. Please introduce yourself at the beginning of your comment. And anyone who would like to speak is welcome to now. Doesn't look like we have any in-person comment. Do we have any Zoom participants? If you're on Zoom and you'd like to comment, please click the raise hand button.
We have Albert Heirig. Albert,
Yes.
do you have the floor?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Albert Hyrick. At the last trustee meeting, I made the claim that the divisive action by our mayor regarding the pledge was, in part, to steer attention away from his Selwyn investment schemes. He succeeded, but underestimated the national uproar and was forced to capitulate. Selwyn is the published document that the mayor disavowed during his campaign for office, a plan to dismantle the community and build the next Telluride. Well, the mayor did exactly as I predicted, yet again. While Silverton basked in its 15 minutes of divisive fame, the mayor continued to buy up property in town. I say the mayor, but the truth of the matter is that the mayor is not using his own money to do this. He is using other people's money, investors, New York money people, and silent local partners who are eager to get rich during the current real estate boom. The mayor has to show a big return on these investments. It is why people invest. The mayor is just the front man, the face of the next Telluride. It is why he has his own, and very strange, I might add, I Am the Mayor website, and advertises his public position first on LinkedIn and other social network pages. He is the guy that draws in the new investors, an influencer. That is his job. As for Sally and Jordan, your unwavering support for whatever the mayor says and does while he dismantles the whole community voids your claims that you care about the little folks. Jordan, your speech a while back telling us all how you represent some silent minority. 5 Pinocchios on that one, brother. You represent the mayor's investors, as does Sally. You are willing to destroy the lives of your neighbors in the community, but expect and demand civility? Your personal actions are gentrifying the town and causing displacement of the working class. Your words ring hollow. That is why a recall is being organized. So let me predict the next Selwyn action. The mayor is going to announce a plan to use some of Selwyn's housing. We will get, I'm sorry. Anyway, in closing, for those of you who have stated that I have not lived in Silverton long enough to speak up, I was wandering these mountains while many of you were still whining for a diaper change. Longevity in one geographical area is not a requirement to fight corruption. If you don't want to listen, change the channel and sell out to the highest bidder. I am not going to be silent, nor will I bow to the trustees' cries for respect and civility, a fancy word for censorship. You haven't earned it. Good night.
Thank you, Albert. Nathan, any other?
At this time, no.
Okay, we'll now close public comment and move to our first agenda item. Consideration for a one-time forgiveness for Nicole Bellman for the use of 700,000 gallons of water.
Yes, so she did, it destroyed her house as well. So she's working on that. And as you see in your memo in your packet, she wrote a short email asking for forgiveness for that.
I have a quick question on that. 700,000 gallons, how long was this not noticed, I guess?
She was on vacation, so it was, what was it, 3 days?
3 to 4 days, I believe.
3 to 4 days.
4
Yeah.
days. Wow. So that literally all but drained the tank. I mean, that's, oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm all for getting rid of this. I mean, I feel bad that her house is gone. But it didn't take long, did it?
Scary.
It answered some questions for John Sites, though.
Yeah, how fast you can run through that much water. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
And does John Sites have anything he needs to weigh in on this, or is there anything we need to hear from him? Or do we just go ahead and do that?
I hadn't planned on anything on this topic.
Okay.
John Sides is raising his hand.
He's raising his hand.
I didn't mean to put him on the spot.
John, you've been promoted.
Yeah, I made a note that I had investigated and supported the forgiveness at the top of my staff report. But there's nothing else that I would need to add other than I looked into it and it's totally kosher. That's why we created this policy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the one-time forgiveness for Nicole Bellman's water bill.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right. The next item is consideration for the approval of the social media policy.
Right, so this policy will help with the town's social media sites monitoring to show what is permissible and how we address comments that are deemed inappropriate. This policy includes guidelines for posting on social media sites, which will be posted on Facebook or Twitter for transparency. So those guidelines will be posted so that people are aware of what is permissible and what is not. And then just to let you know, there's a typo at the bottom of page 3, the last line, there should be no period.
There was something else that needed like a space in between it.
Yeah,
In charge or something.
condensed, kind of funny when we put it all together, but those are the two that we were talking about. And Nathan is the wonderful author of this. So if you have any questions.
I just have one. It was an email that received today from a local citizen asking why, if it's informational, would you actually put comments? And I started actually thinking about what she wrote, like, if it is informational only, why wouldn't there just be a direction to just send it if there was additional questions? I'm just curious.
Trying to clarify your question. You're wondering why there are comments allowed on social media posts currently?
No, if it's an informational post only,
Correct.
right? So, did everybody read Margot's letter today? Okay, so Margot had just questioned why would you even allow comments if it's supposed to be informational?
So previously, before I'd ever stepped into this role, comments were allowed. There's a lack of understanding at that point what we could and could not do. Now that we have looked at other towns and municipalities on their social media policies and we're lining up with them, we are able to go through and stop comments from being made, like with tonight's video. That way there is no off-topic discussion and so forth. But previously that was not a decision I was part of.
Okay, and then the other point of her letter, I'm sorry you didn't actually get to see it, was, basically paying somebody to sit there and monitor social media. So
With
kind of a double-edged sword, so I'm just curious.
With the clarification that we received and within this policy, for the past few postings that we've made, we have restricted commenting because it is informational only. And it doesn't distract from the original intent of the information. So going forward, I believe that's the best policy to have. This is just to cover our bases if there is any commenting allowed in the future.
Okay, beautiful. That just addresses the citizens' letter, and it clarifies what the purpose is for that intent. So thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, clarifications, discussion on the draft social media policy?
No, thanks for doing it. I feel like I don't think anybody should go without one really, with organization or municipality or business, so.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a great policy. So do we hear a motion to adopt proposed social media policy?
I'll make the motion to adopt the Town of Silverton social media policy effective July 2021.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right, consideration for the approval of a financing option trial program for investment and tap fees.
And we can come up with a better name if you all want, but that's what we started with. So in efforts, and I did put together a little proposal, so it's visual for you all. And if we could just skip to the second slide, so it just shows them everything. So basically in efforts to lessen the burden of a new build, increase affordable housing, we would like to try a financing program to encourage building and increase our housing inventory. This packet contains a memo explaining the financing option trial program for tap and plant investment fees. And we are suggesting it to be a trial program because something of this nature where it's over a long term and we're not sure how it'll be received, how many people will get in at first, or we can't really anticipate how our budget's going to look at during that time either. So our best option, we thought, was to come up with this trial program, accept 10 applicants, and then evaluate that and see how that worked and see if it really incentivized people to build within that year. So that's our goal here. And then I just have the criteria up on the screen just to clarify anything.
So just to state for people who haven't read the packet,
Sure.
the idea is to offer no interest or low interest financing for the tap fees that would be incurred by someone who's purchasing and developing property in Silverton.
Correct.
Awesome.
Correct.
Yes, Molly? So my question was, where did the household making 125 or less for the San Juan will be charged, not be charged interest on their 30-year loan? Where did the 30 years come from? Kind of arbitrary, or was it just?
Well, we did it at 15 years and it came up to $142 on every 2 months. And we thought that might still be a cost burden for someone. And so we bumped it to the 30 years, leaving it at only $72 for 2 months on their bill, thinking that that might be a little bit more manageable for someone on a tight budget.
Okay, thank you.
My concern is that if it's only a trial program, but it's very popular, then people are going to come banging down the door asking, why don't they have the opportunity if the 10 spots are filled? And so what's the trial period going to be? It's not going to be 30 years.
As far as, oh, no, it's,
Right.
the trial program will go from August to April. So if they enroll in that time, and then they have to build their house within a year. of that.
Right. Okay.
So is your
So
question
is that-
though, when will we have enough information to decide that it's open to more than 10 people?
Right.
It's hugely successful. And then people are like, well, hey, I want to get on into this program, but yeah.
So we would reevaluate this program in 2023 if it is a longer term, but if we have 10 applicants right away, then we can evaluate a lot sooner.
Right. Okay. There was one other thing. Never mind. It's good. That was, you answered all my questions. Thank you.
In terms of trying to, obviously unintended consequences are hard to anticipate because they're unintended, but is the primary concern what happens if the town doesn't receive all the money up front?
Yes.
Like how that affects our budget?
Right, and so these are for our, an investment fee in our future water and wastewater plant. So we want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for something that we have to wait 30 years to build the plant. So we want to kind of gauge it as we go for this first 10 people. To give you context, we did 15 taps, I want to say, if Director Seitz is on. He recently told me we had done 15 taps total this year. So that's kind of why we gauged that 10 tap.
And we do have Director Sites on.
Great.
And how hard is it for us to, as a town, administer this in terms of keeping track of who owes what and being made aware if a sale happens or something like that, so that they'd be owed, owe the rest of the money?
Yeah, so this is all part of our Cassell program that we use to administer our water and sewer bills currently. So it's actually very easy to tack on and track through our Cassell program. Talked this over with Kelly quite a bit.
And did we confirm with Marty that we're allowed to loan money to residents?
Oh.
Or is it being classified differently? And will we have like a promissory note and a loan agreement and a lien?
Right.
Or
Well,
You know,
you have to, because if you're gonna say that it's
right.
gotta be paid in full, if the
So-
property is sold, then it has to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a loan, but it needs to be set up as a financed.
Mhm.
is recording it, does that cost anything and who pays for it?
Okay. I don't have the answer to those questions, but I'm happy to research that and get back to you guys on that.
Yeah, that was one of the other few questions I had was those whose income is in excess of 125%, there would be an interest charge of 2 to 4%, I guess, depending on the amount it takes to cover our own loan and the bank interest, but then also including any other costs associated with that for tracking, et cetera. And also, if we're going to carry the loan, we would have to extend that same paperwork to whoever we're extending that loan to, right? Basically. Because it says the amount it takes to cover our own loan and bank interest.
Right. So so as far as when I say our own loan and bank, it's
Our loan to,
thinking about our potential new sewer plant coming
Okay.
in and making sure that, you know, we are covering that as well. But after talking to the accountant, after I wrote this memo, she said 1.5% would cover us. So if we put on the extra, like we bumped it to the 2%, that would cover any kind of additional cost that we wouldn't anticipate.
great.
So I'd say I'm fully in support as long as, from an administrative perspective, we're allowed to do it and it's not too burdensome to do the paperwork. And it doesn't create like an issue for like a normal home equity loan, having a second lien on it by the town or anything like that.
Okay. Great. And I will make sure that that is addressed as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And in here, there was a question about limiting the free program to the AMI and not having or doing, I think you mean the trial program?
Yes, so if we wanted to limit the free interest, and I probably should say interest in it, to just AMI, or if we wanted to open that up to other applicants.
That was my question, actually. Is it all right? My question was, I've had some citizen feedback on our AMI limit and that we do have a number of citizens in our community, I think, that come really close to that cutoff and who we would really want to support and want to qualify for housing supports like this one. And so I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a suggestion for that. I just kind of wanted to raise it as a question and see what we do for people who are just right on that cutoff line, because I think it applies to, you know, sort of average dual income situation. And this has actually affected me. When we first had our children, we were so close on like getting the state health insurance for our kids, but we just made like a little bit too much money. And then you're sort of juggling like make just a little bit less money or make a little bit more so you can afford the coverage. And I know that there are several families doing that for affordable housing and qualifying things like that. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but if we can somehow keep it in mind. I did notice that it seems like there's a good graduated approach to this in the proposal, but may not work.
Can we look and see if there's examples of other communities that have like a prioritization based on AMI as opposed to a hard cutoff or like a tapering? So if someone is at 128%,
Right.
instead of 125%, but there's people who are below the targeted threshold, they have priority, but it may still be available to people who are close but not quite, or maybe it's interest rate starts at 0 and then it escalates based on how much over AMI the person is.
Okay.
But if there are, I mean, I'm just making this up,
Right.
like maybe there's actual examples of communities.
Yeah, like a sliding scale approach.
Kind of like, yeah, how the rents are calculated down at Anvil already.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely look into that.
I guess, and the other thing would be like, if maybe there are 10 people who rush for this and they're all at the AMI qualifying, then that sort of makes sense. But if there are 3 people who apply and then there are these 7 other spots and there are people who are really close to that AMI limit, it would be nice to be able to open that program up for them.
Yeah, any comment or question?
Trying to look up Colorado's AMI currently.
So we have the table from last meeting. It doesn't say 125%, but it gives us a ballpark. The 120% number was a one-person household, 61,800, a two-person house was 70,560, three-person, 79,440, four-person, 88,200. We have the data for 5, 6, 7, and 8 people, but
I just met Beth Anderson today and went over the new numbers. So I can get the family of 3 for this year's numbers, 86,000 is 125%.
Oh, nice.
it sounds like we have a little bit more research to do, but that there's general support for this program and it's likely to be approved if we're allowed to do it.
Yeah, I think we should refrain from making a motion, but give direction to staff because this all sounds really good. I'm really curious on what the attorney would have to say. Martha, for making sure we're not, however you want to term that, doing something odd. But it has to go through the bank. And yeah, and a current AMI. I was just on the chapter website to see what I could find.
And in your agenda packet where with the memo, it says AMI and it says click here. So you can just click on that.
And see, oh,
Yes.
great.
And see the updated. It's from HUD.
Oh, from HUD, okay.
And you just have to navigate to the county and you'll be able to find it.
Don't they do it by state?
Oh yeah, you'll do it by state and then by county.
Yeah, that's why I just went to chapter.
Todd, did you have a comment?
I hope this isn't out of place, but I was going to suggest maybe you could allocate a certain number of spots for those over the AMI threshold to be at a 15-year.
Oh, shorter term. That's interesting too, to pull that
Those who can
amortization.
And potentially someone could choice into that too. You know, if that wasn't burdensome and somebody wanted to pay it off faster, that would be good for the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other comments, questions, or is there any other direction or clarification that you would like?
No, this was a great discussion. Thank you guys.
Awesome. All right, moving on to our next agenda item, consideration of the approval of changes to Clean Team contract.
Right, so the Clean Team came to us after it was signed and asked that we take off the windows and the walls. Traditionally that hasn't been done in the past. So this is just kind of a basic omit that section and redo the contract.
Molly?
Was it something that people have been pointing out that's been necessary and has not been taken care of? Hence that it was put into the new contract? What was the reasoning behind it in the new contract?
Right, and I'm not sure about the reasoning with it in the new contract, but we do go out and contract for a window washer who actually can like hook up and scale walls and stuff. So he does the windows. And I think we just contracted with him recently, so.
Yes, Jeremy Yanko, Silverton handled.
Yeah, so he'll be coming out here soon.
Okay.
So this was just added to their new contract and it wasn't.
Correct.
Or was it added or was it just in there from before? Maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure the history on like how it got there, but
They just don't want it.
yeah, she just doesn't want that in the contract.
Do you know the history, Todd?
I do not, I haven't had the opportunity to review the
No.
prior contract.
And I just can't remember.
I mean, my thought is if it's not something that is reasonably within their scope and we have an alternative that is within our budget and people can do a good job, and that's the staff recommendation, I support it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve the updated contract.
You would, or you did?
I will make a motion to approve the updated contract.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right.
Okay, so now we're going into the Kendall Mountain Community Center patio reconstruction proposal. Emailed this out and then you can find it on your desks here. This proposal includes everything except the construction. So we have been trying to get this information out to you all and it came in today and we really wanted to get it pushed through so that we could get it, if it is approved by you all, then we could get started on the project as soon as possible. Director Bove is here and has to provide you all with.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I think as most trustees are aware at this point, we've had some major issues with snow and watershed and drainage over at Kendall for quite some time. The deck has been deteriorating for the past few years, seemingly more rapidly, to the point where we have areas that have been barricaded off, areas that are kind of patched or band-aided, areas that have failing joist hangers. It's pretty much the entire deck. It's not something where we can kind of do these spot repairs, which is what we've been doing the last couple of years. It's really the entirety of the deck. So we reached out to Dean Bosworth. This is a pretty comprehensive estimate that'll get us to the point where we're shovel ready and ready to bid to potentially a contractor who would do the work. This is inclusive of some design elements that we think will better suit the building and also accommodate events, both that we're hosting and also things such as weddings, family reunions, et cetera. So in the design in our meeting, we incorporated some decorative things like planters, stamped concrete similar to what we're proposing we use on Blair Street, although probably not an identical design to that in color and stamp. A 16 by 16 covered area could potentially be used as a band shell, could be used as a covered buffet area. Great place to accommodate a wedding and have like a cocktail hour sort of thing. We could potentially host bands in the winter during night skiing and events like that. So we're being growth minded in the way that we're trying to incorporate certain design elements. We're very near 100% ADA compliance over there, but there are a few minor elements that we're missing. We don't have a concrete parking pad. Yes.
Just a question, do you have an actual mock-up that we could see?
We do not. That's essentially what this is for. So I can run you.
This is creating the mock-up. Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at this, and I apologize, it came so late, but as Gloria mentioned, we really wanted to bring this to you guys and we received it about 3 o'clock, I think, or 2:30. So it's broken into 3 phases. Phase 1 would be a topographic survey. That would be really critical for us coming up with some sort of drainage plan for the entire facility. And it would also give us a lay of the land essentially at Kendall as we start to consider things like maintenance buildings, things like really any design element or something we'd like to add over there. So that topo study will come in handy in the future and we would retain the exclusive ownership rights to that information. So there would be some benefit if we decide as a community to continue any kind of expansion over there in the future. And that information won't really change. It's subject to a bit of erosion, but the core elements of that will stay the same. And then you can see in phase 2, and that would be outsourced. So that wouldn't be done by Mr. Bosworth's firm. That would be done through a contracted surveyor. He's estimating that expense at about $3,000 to cover the Kendall base area. Phase 2 would include an ADA study, schematic plaza design, which is I think what you're looking for, Trustee Barella.
Yep.
Preliminary site drainage plan, which is really critical over there. Part of the reason we're facing this problem with the deck is really that we didn't have a comprehensive drainage plan when we installed the deck. And then it would also include a preliminary project cost estimate, which is essentially an engineer's opinion of probable cost. that would give us some baseline when we eventually would put the project to RFP after the trustees, if we were directed to do so. You can see task 6, which follows, it's kind of the second phase of phase 2, is where we actually get the deliverables. So these would be, as opposed to a rendering and a schematic design, which is more theoretical. Task 6 is where we really get construction-ready engineered documents that are ready to hand over to a contractor. And those are stamped engineered documents. Essentially, at that point, it's shovel-ready. So to get to the point where the project is shovel-ready, we're looking at approximately $15,000. And at that point, it'd be ready to bid to RFP. This professional structural engineering fees is essentially an afterthought. That's the engineer going in and doing site inspection and compliance work to make sure, it's kind of a due diligence thing with the engineer as they're in construction. So that $2,000 at the end would be separate from the $15,000 bid here. My recommendation would be that we could move through the topo study and essentially a large chunk of phase 2 for approximately $9,000. And then the documents for stamped engineered documents would be another $6,000. If we're going to move through this project and do it in somewhat of a timely manner, this will get us there if we complete the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. But there's a great opportunity after phase 2, after we're about $9,000 in, for us to come back to the board with those renderings and say, is there anything we'd like to tweak before we finalize this and get engineered documents? So there's a great check-in point essentially after phase 2 before task 6. So about halfway through the second page. So I'd be happy to field any questions regarding the project. $9,000 will essentially get us to the point where you guys will have visual information and things to look at to see if this is the plan we want to move forward with or make any tweaks before we get into those later phases. Yes.
Timeline, if this is approved.
Well, the hardest part right now, we're confident that we could move through these phases going into the fall, hopefully by sometime in September. If the funding were approved, once we have it through the RFP process and have a contractor, we're really subject to getting a contractor on board more than anything. The hardest part about construction projects right now, as I think everyone is aware, is finding someone to do the work. So I think the most optimistic timeline would be we complete this design portion and construction document acquisition between now and September. And if we can find someone to move and get a quick RFP out there and someone can take the project, we could probably complete it as soon as October, November. I think the backup plan to that would be that we break ground on the project as early as we can in the spring and try and complete it there. And that might provide a nice opportunity for us to build it into the budget for 2022, as opposed to tacking this unbudgeted expenditure onto 2021, but that's certainly up for trustee consideration. And there is a bit of inherent liability there. So the quicker we can move on the project, the better. But we've been limping by okay for a couple of years, but better to be proactive than reactive.
So that was my next question was, are we facing any sort of potential liability if it doesn't get completed this year and we have to go through one more winter on it overall?
I think because we operate the ski area year round and we have the general public there during the winter, I think the liability doesn't necessarily decrease during the winter. We certainly see larger groups for weddings and events like that during the summer.
Right. Well, let me phrase this differently. Because of the potential snow and the deterioration, does it create an additional hazard for winter based on the structural issues that it has right now?
Typically speaking, the snow is cleared by Kendall staff before the general public is utilizing that space. So if anything, I would say there's that added weight is typically just when staff is there.
Okay.
Generally, the guys have it cleared by
But
Yeah,
they
9
would
or
be able
10
to say, hey, we gotta close off this deck today because of,
We've done that in the past. There's sections of the deck where if we don't feel comfortable with it or it's giving us signs we're uncomfortable with, we'll close off that portion. And we frequently do that in the winter where we close the connector between the two decks because of the hanging snow, the amount of snow that gets built up there, the ice dams. And the goal here is to mitigate a lot of those things through this process. We're trying to be growth minded and we're trying to do things once and have them have lasting power. That's why we're recommending a patio as opposed to a deck. We think we'll see, even though it might cost a little more, we'll see more longevity out of it. And it's been designed in a way where all those walkways will be reworked. So they're away from the building and the snow can just fall where it's going to fall. And it's not going to have an impact on ingress, egress, and movement around the facility. And also included in our discussions with Mr. Bosworth, we suggested 2 price patterns, one being with radiant heat and one being without, and potentially a third that's just with rough plumbing. So we could potentially heat this space and minimize the amount of work that the lifties are doing in the morning to clear these decks. And based on those numbers, what we're hoping is that those man hours might offset the installation of some radiant heat over time.
very well thought out. Thank you, Todd.
So we, oh, yeah, go ahead, Jess, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. This has been sorely needed, a long project for Kendall Mountain. I think it's great that we're thinking about investing more in one of our fine town assets. I'm wondering if there's any opportunity that we can integrate a space for renewables, solar panels in the form of a shade structure or a potential snow shed, just a way to help offset some of our utility costs that we have there for the facility.
Can you clarify? I imagine solar would need to be south facing. I'd certainly be willing to look into that. Are you saying to support the energy of the radiant, or just in general on the building to offset utilities?
Both, but in general, just to offset utilities for the building.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
so the south facing deck is where I would envision a structure or something that we could do there.
yeah, absolutely. I'll make note of that, and I can, if we do go into this design process, I can inquire as to those design elements and how we might be able to integrate them. It is a little tricky because the due south facing deck actually has a pitch that's going the opposite direction of south, but I think we could look a lot closer at that at the trustee's direction.
So we adopted a purchasing policy at the last meeting that requires a formal bidding process for projects over $5,000 unless this is viewed as a one-of-a-kind project or there's little likelihood of competitive bidding, at which point this board by majority vote could waive the bidding process. I'm curious, did we go through a formal bidding process or will there be a request tonight for us also to waive the bidding process?
It would be a request to waive the bidding process. We did go out and Dean is our one and only that got back to us as far as just hiring. Given the climate of building these days, we would ask that we waive the bidding process since we found someone who is willing to do it in the time frame that we are expecting.
Can I ask how
I
wide
would note he has an excellent reputation here in the area. Dean Bosworth, he does really nice work here.
Yeah, I'm not in any way suggesting that Dean isn't awesome. Just I wanted to make sure we're following our recently adopted purchasing policy.
Yep.
So what kind of geographic reach and maybe how many contractors did we or engineers did we attempt to solicit bids from? Roughly.
I believe we reached out to at least 2 and possibly 3. Bill McDougall was aiding me in trying to acquire these bids, and Dean was the only person that got back to us in a timely manner. And even at that, it took us quite a while to get Dean to sit down and meet with us and do this. We really ideally probably should start looking at projects like this in the winter if we're going to execute them in the summer. But if we are attempting to do this year or even in the spring, I think this is our quickest and most effective path forward to doing that. And we would still be going into an RFP process for certain for a contractor. This is simply the design elements.
Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to waive the additional, what are we calling it, bidding process and accept the structural engineer budget from Dean Bosworth so we can move forward with the deck and reduce our risks and liabilities and invest in our future.
Clarify, are you making a motion to approve the entire project or just certain phases?
No, I see that the entire project so far as laid out, because we are going to want to have those shovel-ready documents to move forward. So although it seems kind of odd that nobody else would want to really like come here and like bid on these projects, because we all know this is the best place to be. But yeah, because I think it's vital and it's been long overdue. As Jess said, this is something that's been on our radar for quite a while and it needs to be done.
Could we, could we still do the check-in between phases
Oh,
2
yeah.
and 3 and let's,
Yep.
yeah, make sure that we do that. But yeah, this is,
So I'm glad to see it was so comprehensive and very well laid out. Thank you, Todd, Bill McDougal, for really getting in there. Thank you, Dean, for putting in this proposal.
So for clarification, it's a motion to approve this proposal subject to a check-in between phases 2 and 3.
Yes, and the waiver of the bid
Right.
process. Mhm.
second,
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Bierma,
Yes.
trustee George. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
I'm uncomfortable with the informal nature of the request for the waiver of the bid process. I think in the future, that's an important thing that the town could be criticized for doing. And so I think it'd be really helpful to have more context around that request. And so that it says like, this is who we reached out to, we waited this period of time. And at this point, we think this is absolutely the best path forward. I'm voting yes tonight, but I feel a little uncomfortable about the bid process request. So yes. The next item is consideration for the approval of the Hard Rockers event. And do we have someone?
We do have Judy Coleman in the audience to help answer any questions. I, for one, am excited to have this event back in Silverton. I've always wanted to participate. This year I'm going to sign up personally. But all of the paperwork was done in the timeliest of manners. I truly appreciate you, Judy, for getting this together. We are going to be requesting a fee waiver, which I did leave at your desk for you. Historically, we have waived the majority of these fees, except for the ones that we could not. And as Judy had mentioned in her letter to the board, it's been a pretty tight budget that she's been working on, but if you look at the agenda items for the events, she's going to pull it off again.
I hope so.
Well, you've done it every other time, Judy. You can do it again. We all have faith in you.
Well, I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have.
no, I'm just happy that it's, yeah, that it's back and we're going to be doing it again. Thank you.
Pardon? I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm just happy it's back and that we're having it again. Thanks.
Got to continue this.
Yeah,
This is a backbone of our community.
yeah,
You know, a lot of people don't want to admit it, but that's how Silverton was started.
yeah.
That's how come all of our daddies moved here. Yeah. Thank you, Judy.
I think it's a great event, and I thought the packet was very thorough and well put together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the fee waiver and the event packet for Hard Rockers Holidays.
Second. Please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Uyghur,
Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
very
you
much.
again.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
All right, we are up to approval of consent agenda items. Does anyone have any questions or comments we need to pull out of the consent agenda? Nope. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Recuse?
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Uyghur,
Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right, we're up to staff reports.
Great, all right. So starting with my staff report, I had said that we might be able to choose a date for our retreat tonight. So wanted to throw a couple dates out there and you all can tell me, since we're all in the same room, I'm really excited. That maybe we can set a date in August for this retreat. I know I've thrown out some dates, but I'm gonna try some new dates here. So my first date is, let's see, oh, it's August 19th. No, okay. All right. How about? Okay, how about a weekend on the 21st, August 21st? Negative. Okay, yeah, you can just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down and that works perfectly. Okay, we're moving on to August 26th. Okay. All right, looking at August 24th. No. Yep.
That's the second day of school.
No.
Wait, could everybody do it on the 26th besides me or?
I also couldn't, I would cancel the plans if I was the only one.
All right, now we're looking at August. Oh, I think we have to go into September for this one. All right, so we're looking at September 9th. Oh.
If everybody else can do it, I'll get coverage. Yeah.
You can probably figure it out.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, it's a day of school.
Jess has his thumbs up.
Is that a yes? All right, August 9th,
September 9th.
September 9th, sorry.
Whoa.
September 9th. Thank you all.
Nice.
We will have our staff retreat September 9th. Look for details.
Our trustee retreat,
I trust.
but I
We
know
will have
what you
a
mean.
staff one here. September 9th.
Okay.
I also wanted to update you all. There will be a memo on this happening at our next meeting, but I just received the sales tax revenue from the county today. And for May, since it's backdated 2 months, we are at $45,041 from last year. So totaling, our total is $74,281. Quite the increase.
You know how, like, what percentage of surplus we're running at this point for the year?
Yes.
We are at 139,870 surplus from last year. Is any other questions on the staff reports?
Would it be possible to get that as a percentage next meeting?
Oh,
Not
yeah.
this specific number, but as we do them in the future.
Oh,
Say we're
sorry.
Like 30% over budget or something. or
We're
over budget.
64% over
Oh,
from
cool.
last year. 64% total. Yeah. This last one was 154% more than previous years, so.
Mhm. Wait, more than
More than last year?
more than
Yeah, more than
year or
last
more than
year.
previous?
More than last year. So last year, this time, during May, we received 29,000. This year, we are up 74,000.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Well,
I will write this all out for you guys in a memo. I just kind of was excited and wanted to tell you in my staff report.
I would say that May is probably a significant outlier because we were shut down.
Yeah.
for the
Yeah, that's
entire,
what I
like,
was trying to
until
get at.
Yeah.
May 27th or something as a state.
It's the Thursday after Memorial Day, when everybody was allowed to reopen.
Mhm. So for context, 2019
Yeah.
was 50,000.
And that was the first year that Wayfair versus the United States took effect for us.
Was that 2020?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was the first time we'd ever been able to collect tax on anything shipped into this county. And that was still a crapshoot on whether or not it was working. So I think they've got it nailed in now.
And then did you have something to add to your staff?
I did. I wanted to just provide a quick update. I think trustees probably recall we were directed to work with Carrie Metzler for improvements to the red modular space. It was on a bit of a time crunch, but I'm happy to report that with Carrie's, particularly Carrie's efforts, we were able to get that accomplished in time. And we're in receipt of those funds in the amount of $10,000, and we have placed them in the budget under modular operating expenses. And we're hoping to, so that grant is closed out and those funds have been allocated to us. And now we are on our own timeline for completing that project, which I think we're intending to do sometime in August or early September.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Tom.
Big thank you to Carrie. She really ran with that, and staff really just had to do some very minor things to assist her. It was really all Carrie.
Nathan?
Just a couple updates. The Hard Rock 100 starts in 2 days. So we're excited for that race to begin. The farmers market had their first day was a great success. So if you haven't been, please go pick up your fresh veggies and farm fresh eggs. And the I Am Music Festival is at the end of this month. We're just working out some minor details for them. And then shortly after that, the Hard Rockers Holidays does begin. So we have the next 4 to 5 weeks full of events. So come out, show your support. And it's a great thing.
It's truly a blessing to see most everybody wanting to come back. Hundreds in the Hills, we're really sad that they didn't come this year, but I can understand with all of the uncertainty around what was happening with COVID at the beginning and having to make those decisions. It's just so nice to actually see this, because I was really afraid a lot wouldn't come back to us. So.
And I would like to clarify the numerous pages in these special events applications. I am working on streamlining that process. We are also working to put it online in fillable format. So they have no choice but to answer all the questions, and yes or no answers lead to decision trees. That should streamline the process drastically for not only staff, but the event holders as well.
Nice.
Thank you.
All I have.
All right. Moving on to committee reports. Molly, did you have something?
I just wanted to ask if it's only me, that's fine, but I would really like a copy of the front page, so I've got everything in front of me. Because I really hate Google Docs, and it's the jumping back and forth and then the black screen. So I don't know if everybody would like an agenda in front of them as well, but it would be very helpful. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For what?
To just have a printed agenda at the meetings when we get here.
Oh, yeah, I printed that. You're not, just to clarify, we're not asking for the whole package. Just
Nope,
the agenda.
just a printed agenda in front of us.
Absolutely.
So it just makes everybody's life easier than trying to jump back and forth.
Awesome.
You can do that.
I really like mine. It's one page. Like I have two pages on one page. Makes it easy. And not double-sided. Great. Any committee meetings since our last meeting? Was there a 4th of July committee meeting or anything like that? Or would you like to do a recap on the weekend's events?
4th of July, we did not have an official meeting. We just did the 3 executive members to work out and finalize the detail. And then Todd and I spoke about what needed to be done. And I'd like to thank Todd too for volunteering. So now you can see how crazy it gets crazy. Down at the park, kids had an amazing, wonderful time. And I do like what Todd wrote in his report in here, saying he was there, he actually saw it, and how many people praise how wonderful this is, because we've changed that narrative, and that was the main goal of that entire group, was to make sure that we created a family-friendly event and everything that goes along with it. And Todd wrote, thanks to the organization for their continued dedication to hosting what has become such a special annual event and a valuable community asset. Thank you for that, Todd. Thank you for volunteering. It was a little difficult because the staffing with the Airbound Colorado, they were unable to provide as many people as we were supposed to receive. But that was based on a contract that we signed in 2019, and they held it over until 2021. And there was no way, based on current market value of employees and or the ability to have employees, which we all know what that is, to get enough staffing here. So my niece that's an attorney, she came down with a girlfriend of hers from Houston, and then Todd and Ron and Sharon Heinbach, and then a couple of their people that worked at the park. That was the only way we were able to staff everything there. And other than that, yeah, the parade was awesome. We'd like to thank Patty Daly for organizing that, like she does pretty much every year for at least the last 25 or so years. And a lot of people were very disappointed and left very early because we were not able to have fireworks, but Ray was bragging a lot. Let's not forget that. They got bragging rights this year or so, because they got the fireworks and we didn't. So yes, and that's it.
Was there any type of like planning commission meeting or anything else like that?
No.
Okay. Great. Trustee reports.
I took a tour of the sewage treatment plant.
Good job.
And it was great. And, oh wait, my notes are back here, actually. Yeah, it was just good to hear from John about kind of how the whole system works and get a visual on what the memo that he presented us with at our last meeting, just to kind of see how it all fits together. And, you know, my big takeaway for our 16 participants tonight is no flushing tampons. They are gross. And they come down to that pond and they just lay in there, and then they have to get skimmed out. So even if people have plumbing that they think is new, stuff shouldn't get flushed. Just the pee and the poop.
Oh, come on, you didn't live here.
That's my trustee. I get to say poop in my trustee update. My students will be so happy.
Wanda Miller years ago, she used to, I don't know, a few of you will remember this. She used to put her kitty litter down there and it actually completely solidified in the lower portion of Reese. And because she was just flushing her cat food.
Oh,
So be careful what you say. Because we've already had that happen once in the whole lower part of Reese. We just literally had a solid cement block.
well, there you go.
Thank you, Sally.
So human. Yes.
Just human, yeah, waste is what we're going for. But yeah, I highly recommend the tour. If you guys haven't had a chance to go on it.
Any other trustee reports? So I've been seeing these stop shame signs around town, and I would like to encourage people to pursue policy conversations because I serve at the pleasure of the citizens and I don't know how to take that direction of stopping myself. But if people are unhappy with decisions this board is making, I would be happy to have that conversation and figure out how to manage that better. So I would just encourage this community to perhaps talk about the substance and not attack the person, because it's hard to just remove a person from a community. So that's all I have. Continued business, affordable housing, RV ordinance clarification memo.
Right, so I included just an overview of what we had talked about in our work session regarding the RVs and wanted to present that to you just one more time to make sure that this is what we decided. And if you have any clarifications in this, we can address it. But otherwise, this is more for informational purposes for our citizens as well, so that they have a document that kind of shows them what is allowed and what isn't, and where we clarify.
Any questions or comments on the clarification ordinance or the ordinance?
Looked good to me.
Awesome.
Great.
Are there any updates on the timing of when we expect to receive the housing study that Beth was talking about?
Yes, so our next meeting on, I want to say the 26th. I just want to double check. Yes, on the 26th, we should have a presentation from Root Policy on our housing study, as well as some other documents that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and they should be primed and ready for you all, for your consideration.
Did everybody collect these out of their boxes? So there's quite a bit in here about what the stimulus effects are for the legislation that's going to affect our municipalities. And one of the very first things in there, excuse me, is the affordable housing strategy. So I'd encourage everybody, if you didn't get them tonight or yet, go down to your box and get them. And then what is happening, because CML touches it on it as well, with what's going on with all of these things that are being passed to help us. So, and these are definitely geared towards very small municipalities like ourselves.
All right, OHVs.
All right, so our attorney, Martha Whitmore, and she is on the line right now, has helped prepare a memo on the OHV petition and election dates to be set by the board next meeting, basically stating that the only date that works for both petitions would be Tuesday, October 12th. We are still in the protest period for the referendum petition until July 20th. So after July 20th, at our next meeting, the board can officially set the date. And Marty is here to answer any questions.
I have one very specific one. Is this something that would be, I mean, obviously it's the best date for this. for Kelly because she is the clerk and she is not here. What other support is she going to need to get this done? Elections are not, I mean, they're not hard, but they're not easy either. So making sure that the wording is all correct, everything like that. Is that support that we're going to be getting from Martha, or is it support we're going to be getting from the both of you, or for Kelly?
More Kelly and Martha on this one.
Okay.
Anything to do with those elections would be on them.
Okay.
So Marty, I'll have you answer that question.
We will be working on getting proposed ballot language so that it's available before the next meeting. Again, the protest period is not fully run, but so the dates are subject to change, but obviously it's in the best interests of the town, if at all possible, to hold the election on both petitions at the same time, rather than have two special elections.
Much agreed.
Where it describes the protest period ending, it says the protest period for the referendum petition ends on July 20th, 2021. If the board does not reaffirm the original ordinance, the election is set between 60 and 150 days from the final determination of sufficiency for the original petition. I was wondering, Marty, if you could explain that sentence.
It's the last.
I'm sorry.
It's the last
Yeah.
partial paragraph, first page, second sentence.
The protest, okay, that's important. And what's your question? Explain it. It's just our reading of, I mean, I'm just going to tell you this, the special elections statute and the referendums and petitions statute are not models of clarity. They are, the wording is a bit obscure. I did call and talk to David Broadwell, who's the general counsel for the Municipal League, Colorado Municipal League, to walk through this and see if we were interpreting it correctly and see if he thought we were on the right track. So he has been through a number of these, both in his prior position as general counsel or city attorney for the city and county of Denver, as well as in advising a number of quite a few other small communities are in the midst of this. So we've walked through the interpretation with him. I think we've got it right, but I will tell you, this statute is a bit obscure.
Or do you want to follow?
Just to follow up, I guess because it says if the board does not reaffirm the original ordinance, it sort of leaves room to, in my interpretation there, that the board has an option to reaffirm the original ordinance. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, so, yes.
Or what if the board does one thing versus another thing?
Right. The board can reaffirm. So when it talks about the original ordinance, that's the one that you adopted based on the initial petition. And then the referendum petition challenged that adoption of the ordinance. If you do not reaffirm that original ordinance based on the original petition, then you go ahead and set it for election.
So are you saying that this board could reaffirm the decision to adopt the ordinance closing the town to OHVs and avoid an election?
I don't think that's correct, and I apologize. The memo I think here is not real clear. And I'm happy to grab the statute. I've got to look it up.
It was our previous understanding that once the citizen protest overturned the board's decision, that was pretty much final, other than setting a date for the election. I agree with Sally that now you've raised that. It's
I agree. That is the intent, and this is just not well written. My apologies. It's the way the statute's written is kind of confusing, but at the end of the day, if you have adopted an ordinance, there is a protest to it, essentially a referendum petition, then it does go to an election.
So on that previous notification and clarification on the OHV referendum petition where we had like the boxes and the table, said if we reaffirm, if it doesn't get
Yes.
reaffirmed, it's between 60 and 150 days from the sufficiency of the original petition. And then it says if we affirmed it, it would be 60 to 150 days from the sufficiency of the referendum petition. So it'd still go to election, it would just shift the dates.
It just shifts the date slightly. In this particular instance, we're doing the 60 to 150 days from May 17th, which was the original petition.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just goes to the calculation of when your window is. And we reviewed the chart basically that got put together, and it's correct. So it may be more clear.
So I've one other question about just this generally. From the feedback we've received, it sounds like a large number of people think, including our sheriff, think that the route is flawed as a plan and would prefer to either see the town entirely open or entirely closed. Based on how this has worked out, the most likely result seems to be reinstating the route, because both the first petition and the second petition include the route as an option. So there's two opportunities to vote for the route and only one opportunity to vote for open or closed. That's just going to be a complicated aspect of this ballot?
Drafting the ballot language is going to be challenging, because the language of the petitions was a little less than totally clear. Typically you try to make sure it's a yes or no ballot, and the wording on both of those petitions just is going to make the ballot language more complicated. So we haven't drafted it yet. We're working on it. We'll be working with the clerk, Kelly, when she's available to discuss it more. But yes, you're correct. The ballot question is based on the petitions. It's not, a new articulation of the issue.
And a follow-up question is there, no matter how difficult or complicated, is there a world in which there could be a request made to withdraw both petitions and to put a just straight up or down vote on in the fall of open the town or close the town?
Another petition could be submitted. At this point, I don't think you can withdraw the other petitions. But certainly a third petition could be proposed.
Wouldn't that just complicate things further?
Yes, it would, including the timing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we have is what we have, and it's more about educating the voting public about what it means for them to get whatever result they desire.
Correct,
Okay, thank you.
correct. And so, and to the extent that the petition language included, any discretion in the trustees, we will try to make sure that's also captured in the ballot question. So for example, if the petition, and I just don't have them in front of me right now, if the petitions referenced a route to be determined at the discretion of the trustees, that can be captured in the ballot question.
Thank you. Any other?
So just to clarify, when you have the ballot language prepared, is that something that we'll see on our agenda and review just to understand how the ballot language is being interpreted from the petitions?
I believe the ballot language is actually within the power of the clerk. I'm not sure that the trustees review that.
Okay.
But I will double check.
Could we not try to get the most accurate results by having the second petition be voted on October 12th? And if the other one is reaffirmed, then it could be on the general ballot and it wouldn't be any additional cost if it's on the general ballot, and then we'd have a really accurate determination of what our citizens want.
Could you walk us through that?
Say that one more time.
So the second petition could be voted on October 12th, as is in the memo.
So the second petition being the open the town or have the route.
All roads versus status quo would be voted on one on October 12th. And then if the previous ordinance is reaffirmed, that would be 60 to 150 days from the sufficiency of the referendum petition, which would be sometime between September 18th and December 17th, which would allow it to be on the general election ballot. And then it would still be the same cost because it'd be one special election.
What general ballot is coming up in 2021 that the town of Silverton has?
Yeah, my understanding is there is no
One.
Nothing until 2020.
There's nothing until 2022 and it's April 2022.
Right.
Fair enough.
That's kind of the dilemma. Ordinarily, with it being this close to what might otherwise be a general election in November, all of it would go on to that ballot, but there may not be any kind of statewide general election this year. So far, none of the initiatives have made the ballot.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, those are county versus city.
Correct.
Any other questions? Well, this was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I wish the statute, I wish the statute was a little bit less convoluted, but it is what it is.
Thanks for your input.
So restating, we'll have this on our next meeting agenda to set the date for the
Correct,
election.
correct. I just wanted to get your gears turning on this one.
Perfect. And will Kelly be around between now and the next meeting so that we can confirm that she supports this date as well?
Yes.
Okay.
She will be here after the 15th.
Great. All right. Anything else before we move on? At this time, we will move to our closing public comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself. In-person comments first.
Good evening, I'm Gary Davis. One of the first things you did this evening was forgive 700,000 gallons of water for Miss Bellman. I just got to tell you, is John Sice still on here?
Yes, sir.
Are you still there, John?
So criticism, if this is going that.
Yes.
Okay.
Clarify something.
Sure.
The big tank you see up here on the hill holds 800,000 gallons. And when the POW / handlebars caught on fire a number of years ago, it took 3 fire departments 24 hours and they poured 600,000 gallons on it to put it out. And everybody in the whole neighborhood was flooded. And it's just hard to believe that one house had a leak and the entire neighborhood wasn't washed away in 2 or 3 days. Those are astounding numbers. That whole tank you just forgave her for using in 3 days. Hard to believe. My input. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Any other in-person comment? All right, moving to our Zoom attendees. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button. Seeing none, we will now close public comment. And it is 8:29 p.m. and we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.